Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. You ever look at someone you love and suddenly realize they're already gone? I was standing in the kitchen, Sunday morning, making her favorite omelet, spinach, mushrooms, feta, same as every weekend for the past 7 years. She walked in, phone in hand, wearing that oversized hoodie she used to steal from me back in college. She didn't look at me, not once, just scrolled. I asked if she wanted coffee. She didn't answer. I asked again, louder this time. That's when she looked up, not at me, but through me, like I was just a shape in her way. And then she smiled. But it wasn't her smile. It was the one she gives to strangers when she wants something. Polite. Hollow. That's when I felt it, the shift. Like someone had cracked the floor beneath me, and I was too numb to fall. I slid the plate onto the table. She sat down, still scrolling. Didn't touch the food. Just mumbled something about not being hungry. Her phone buzzed again. She smiled. A real one this time. Not for me. I didn't say a word. Just watched. Watched her thumb dance across the screen like she was having a conversation that mattered. One that didn't include me. One that probably hadn't for months. I wanted to believe it was just stress. Maybe work. Maybe hormones. Maybe anything but the truth screaming in my chest. But the truth doesn't knock. It kicks the door in. That night, I found her laptop open on the couch. Not snooping, just looking for the remote. But the screen was on. Messages. Dozens of them. Not my name. His. I didn't open a single one. Didn't need to. Her smile told me everything. That was the moment I stopped breathing like a husband. I started breathing like a ghost. She didn't even notice when I went to bed alone. Didn't ask why I didn't say goodnight. Didn't ask why the light was off. She didn't ask anything. And I didn't offer anything. Because I knew something she didn't. She thought she was playing me. She didn't know I'd already left the game. The next morning, she asked if I'd seen her charger. I pointed to the table. No words. She thanked me. No eye contact. That used to sting. Her silence. The way she treated me like background noise. But now, it was fuel. Every word she didn't say was a confirmation. Every second of indifference, permission. She didn't know I was done playing husband. I hadn't walked out. I had something better in mind. I started small. I stopped asking how her day went. She didn't notice. I stopped folding her laundry. She complained once, said it was piling up. I nodded and walked out of the room. I stopped cooking for 2. I made myself dinner. Ate in silence. She'd walk into the kitchen, confused. Ask if I had leftovers. I'd shrug and say I wasn't sure when she'd be home. That got her. She started texting her ETA again. I didn't reply. One evening, she asked if I wanted to watch that show we used to binge together. I told her I'd already seen the new episodes. I hadn't, but I said it anyway. She looked at me then. Really looked. Like she was trying to read something in my face that wasn't there anymore. Because it wasn't. That version of me. The one who waited up, who paused his life just to feel a breadcrumb of connection. He was gone. I wasn't angry. Anger would have meant I still cared. No, what I felt now was clarity. The kind that comes after a long illness. When you finally accept the pain as permanent. She started changing her behavior. Asking if I wanted coffee. Mentioning my favorite songs when they came on. Touches. Light. Quick. Meaningless. Like she was trying to remind me we used to be something. But she was late. Months too late. You don't notice when love dies. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It pulls away inch by inch until one day, you reach for something that isn't there. That night, she stood in the doorway of our bedroom. Said, "Are we okay?" I didn't look up from my book. We're fine. And we were. Fine. The most hollow word in the English language. I watched her nod slowly, like she knew something was off but couldn't name it yet. That was part of the plan. I wasn't going to scream. Wasn't going to demand. I wasn't going to play her game. I'd learned the art of silence. Strategic withdrawal. Emotional extinction. Because if she didn't feel the weight of my absence while I was still in the room, then she never deserved my presence to begin with. By the end of the week, she started doing what I used to do. Asking if I needed anything from the store. Leaving little notes on the counter. Sending random texts during the day, just checking in, she'd say. But every word she sent landed like spam. Too clean. Too late. I didn't respond to most of them. She wasn't used to silence. That was the point. Her pattern was predictable. Withdraw affection, act cold, then reel me back in when she felt the distance growing too wide. But this time, I didn't grab the rope. I just watched it fall. She tried a movie night. Bought my favorite beer, ordered the wings from that place downtown. The couch was set, blanket folded, even the lights dimmed the way I used to like. She smiled as I walked in. I told her I had emails to finish. I didn't. I just sat in my office and listened to the credits roll from the other room. Alone. She started calling her friends more. I'd hear her in the bedroom, whispering, saying things like, "He's different," and "I don't know what's happening." Then one night, I heard her say something else. "I don't think he even cares anymore." She was right. I cared once. Enough for both of us. Enough to carry the entire relationship while she floated. But I stopped the day I realized she was never planning to meet me halfway. She thought this was about revenge. She was wrong. This was about preservation. I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting what little of me was left. Because when someone spends years showing you they can live without your heart, eventually, you take it back. The next shift came at dinner. I had made steak. Rare, the way I like. She walked in, expecting 2 plates. I served one. She asked if I'd made enough for her. I said I didn't know she'd be home. That one hit. She sat down anyway, watching me eat in silence. Her fork untouched. The next morning, she tried again. Made me breakfast. Eggs, toast, even cut the fruit into little triangles the way I used to do for her. Set it all on the table without a word. I looked at it, nodded, then walked out the door without touching it. I wasn't being cruel. I was being clear. You don't get to water dead plants and expect a garden. And she was starting to realize that. It wasn't the silence that got her. It was the routine, the consistency, the way I kept showing up physically but stopped emotionally. Like a mirror. Still. Reflective. Empty. She'd broken something without ever hearing the snap. Now she was trying to glue it back together with polite gestures and safe smiles. But the crack was too deep, and I had no intention of taping it shut just to make her feel comfortable again. The first time she really cracked was on a Thursday. She came home early, keys jangling louder than usual, like the sound was supposed to alert me to her arrival. I was on the balcony, watering the plants I'd started keeping. Something about watching things grow on my terms gave me a strange peace. She stood at the sliding door, arms folded, eyes sharp. She didn't ask what I was doing. She asked why I'd stopped waiting up for her. Why the fridge only had one meal in it. Why her laundry hadn't been touched in 2 weeks. I let her ask. Then I turned the hose off, walked past her, and grabbed a drink from the kitchen. She followed me in, tension trailing behind like smoke. She said I'd been cold. Said she didn't recognize me. I told her I'd been the same guy for years, the one she kept ignoring. She asked if this was some twisted payback. I said nothing. That silence was my new vocabulary. And she hated it. She started pacing, listing all the things she'd done lately. The dinners, the texts, the little efforts. She wanted credit. Recognition. A thank you. But you don't get applause for showing up after the curtains dropped. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her unravel. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was worse. It was raw. Real. She said she missed me. I didn't answer. She said she was trying. I nodded slightly. Then she said it. If you're not going to love me, then at least tell me what you want. That one made me look at her. Because that's when I realized she still thought I wanted something from her. She still believed I needed a version of her to feel whole. But she was wrong. What I wanted was gone. Not taken. Not stolen. Just faded. Repetition had killed the romance. Silence had buried the intimacy. And her neglect? That was the shovel. I told her I didn't want anything. That I was fine. And that word, fine, landed like a punch. She knew exactly what it meant this time. She stood there for a moment, breathing shallow. Her eyes weren't angry. They were searching, desperate to find a crack in the ice she could crawl through. But I'd sealed it. That night, she cried quietly in bed, faced the wall like I used to. I didn't comfort her. I didn't reach out. Because the man who would have done that, she trained him not to. You teach people how to love you by what you tolerate. And she had taught me to stop. The next few days felt like a slow unraveling. She started doing things she hadn't done in years. Waking up early, making breakfast, asking if I needed anything before she left for work. The old version of me would have been grateful, would have smiled, hugged her from behind while the eggs sizzled. But this version? He just watched. Because it's easy to act like a partner when you're scared of being alone. And that's exactly what she was now, scared. Not of me leaving. That would have been easier for her to process. No, what shook her was the realization that I had already left emotionally, while still sleeping 6 feet away. She called her sister one night. not even trying to be quiet. I was in the garage, fixing the shelf she used to complain about. Through the thin walls, her voice cracked. She said I'd gone numb. Said it felt like living with a stranger who used to know every inch of her soul. She swore it wasn't about cheating. He's not that kind of man, she said. She was right. I wasn't. But betrayal doesn't always wear someone else's perfume. Sometimes, it smells like neglect. Sounds like sighs instead of sentences. Looks like the back of someone's head more often than their eyes. The next morning, I left early. No note. When I came back, she had cleaned the whole house. Candles burning. Her hair done. That soft sweater she used to wear when she wanted my attention. She smiled when I walked in. I nodded, walked past, and changed clothes. She followed me into the hallway, hesitant. Said she wanted to talk. Said she missed us. Said we could fix this. I paused long enough for her to hope. Then told her I wasn't interested in resuscitating something she let die while I begged it to live. That was the first time her face broke. Not anger. Not defensiveness. Just quiet panic. She said she didn't know it had gotten this bad. I told her that's the problem. She had stopped noticing me long before I stopped responding to her. Later that night, I heard her crying in the bathroom. The door wasn't even locked. She wanted me to hear, to come knock. But I didn't. Because I wasn't cruel. Just done. Done holding together a version of marriage built entirely on my endurance. Done hoping she'd one day feel what I'd been drowning in for years. She came out eventually, eyes red, nose blotchy. Didn't say a word. Neither did I. Because sometimes, the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. The real shift came not from her, but from the people around her. It was a Saturday. Overcast, quiet, the kind of day that used to mean brunch and shared errands. I was in the garage, reorganizing tools I hadn't touched in months, creating order in places I could control. That's when I heard her laugh. A nervous one. Forced. Then another voice. Her friend Amanda had stopped by. Amanda had always been one of her biggest cheerleaders. The kind of woman who never missed a chance to roll her eyes at my existence. But today, her tone was different. I stayed out of sight, letting the shadows and garage door muffle my steps. They sat on the patio, 2 glasses of wine between them. I caught pieces. Enough. Amanda asked if everything was okay. She gave a shaky answer. Said things had been strange. Said I'd gone quiet. Said she was trying, but nothing was working. Amanda didn't jump in with sympathy. She said, "You pushed him too far." There was silence. She said I used to adore her. That she could feel it, even in the way I looked at her. That now, she wasn't sure I even saw her as a person, let alone a partner. Then Amanda said something that froze me where I stood. "You didn't cheat, but you stopped being kind." And just like that, I knew it wasn't just in my head. Someone else saw it. Someone on her side. Her friend went on. Said the affection, the touch, the attention, it had all dried up long before I ever changed. That I wasn't retaliating. I was responding. My wife said she never thought I'd stop trying. Amanda told her, "That's the problem. You thought he always would." Later that night, she came into my office. Quiet, almost careful, placed a mug of coffee on the desk the way I used to for her when she stayed up late working. Said she figured I could use one. I thanked her. Flat tone. No warmth. Just the bare minimum. She lingered like she wanted to talk. I didn't invite it. Not out of cruelty, but because I no longer owed her that space. She hovered in the doorway for another few seconds, then left. And in that silence, I realized she was finally beginning to feel what I'd lived with for years. The difference? I didn't ask her to feel it. She built it. And now she had to sit in it. Alone. A few days later, my birthday came and went. She didn't mention it that morning. No card. No hug. No glance. I wasn't surprised. The week before, I deleted the recurring calendar reminder she always used to keep. I wanted to see if she'd remember without it. She didn't. I made my own breakfast. Ran errands. Even treated myself to a steak dinner alone at that little place we used to go. Sat by the window. Ordered her old favorite appetizer out of habit. Didn't touch it. When I got home, she was on the couch, scrolling. Looked up and asked if I could take out the trash. I did. Quietly. That night, she came into the bedroom late. Said she'd been busy at work. That she was tired. I nodded. No reaction. Because the man who used to hope for a last-minute surprise, a whispered happy birthday, or even a guilty kiss, he didn't live here anymore. She noticed something was off the next morning. The way I moved. The way I didn't kiss her goodbye. She asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. That word again. Heavy. Weighted. Final. She asked if she'd done something wrong. I looked at her then, not with anger, not with sorrow, just clarity. I told her she didn't do anything. She simply didn't do enough. And that was always the problem. She stood in the kitchen, barefoot, in that old t-shirt I used to love on her. Suddenly small, like the realization was catching up to her, slowly, painfully. She asked if I had plans that night. I said no, then left the house without another word. She spent the evening calling mutual friends. I know because two of them messaged me separately, asked if I was okay, asked why she seemed so lost. I told them both the same thing. She forgot the one day I needed her to remember. Later that night, I came home and found her sitting at the kitchen table. A cake, store-bought, half-heartedly decorated with my name in shaky lettering. A gift bag beside it. Something inside still wrapped in store tissue. She looked up as I entered. Said she was sorry. Said she just got distracted. I looked at the cake, then at her, and I walked past without a word. Because some moments you can't redo. Some damage you can't sweeten with frosting. I went to bed without turning on the light. Lay there in the dark, listening as she cried in the kitchen. Low, broken, the way I used to cry, alone, unnoticed, while she scrolled her feed or laughed on the phone. Now the silence belonged to her, and it was finally speaking. The shift wasn't sudden. It was slow, quiet, surgical. She started trying harder, like someone desperate to reverse time without understanding how time works. She made dinner every night, set the table, lit candles, even wore perfume again, the one I used to love, the one she stopped using when she stopped trying. I never asked for any of it. I just showed up, ate in silence, said thank you, then left the table. She began hovering more, asking questions she never used to care about. How was your day? Want to watch something together? Can I help with anything? I answered politely, distant, always measured. It wasn't revenge. It was detachment, and she was finally tasting it. One night, she cooked my favorite meal, chicken marsala, the kind she always said took too long on a weeknight. The table was set like a movie scene. Soft music, folded napkins, 2 glasses of wine breathing beside the plates. She smiled when I walked in, said she thought I might like a surprise. I sat, ate, told her it tasted good. She waited, for warmth, for some kind of sign. I didn't give it. Halfway through the meal, she broke the silence. Said she missed us. I didn't look up. I just asked, do you miss me? Or the version of me that kept tolerating being invisible? She froze. That hit harder than she expected. She said it wasn't fair. I said it wasn't supposed to be. It was just true. She put her fork down, hands trembling slightly. Said she knew she'd been selfish. Said she'd taken me for granted. That she didn't realize how far gone I'd been until I stopped filling the silence. I nodded. Slowly. Let her sit in it. Then she reached for my hand. Her fingers hovered above mine, waiting for connection. I didn't move. Not to reject her, but to show her how long that space had been empty. She whispered that she wanted to earn back whatever was left. I finally looked at her, not with resentment, not even with grief. Just clarity. I said, you're trying to fix something that isn't broken anymore. It's just gone. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Because deep down, she knew I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. And honesty, after years of begging for it and being ignored, is no longer a gesture. It's a verdict. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not out of spite, out of peace. Because even ghosts need space. A week passed. Then another. She was still trying. In the way people do when they realize the locks they once installed now keep them out. Every gesture was calculated. Every smile, practiced. She folded my clothes before I could touch the laundry. Cooked dinner without asking what I wanted. Picked up snacks I hadn't mentioned in months, placing them quietly in the pantry as if hoping I'd notice. But effort isn't affection. Not when it comes from fear instead of love. And that's what it was now, fear. Not of losing me. She'd already lost that version. What scared her was the man I'd become. The one who no longer reacted. No longer reached across the emotional aisle. No longer negotiated his worth for a moment of her attention. I wasn't punishing her. I was simply finished. One evening, she walked into the living room with 2 mugs of tea. Said she'd made it just how I liked. I thanked her. Didn't sip it. Didn't even lift it. She sat beside me. Too close. Waiting again. Waiting for that invisible string between us to pull tight. But it just lay there. Slack. After a few minutes, she stood up. Said she was going to bed early. I didn't respond. That was the real fracture. Not an argument, not a slammed door. Just quiet, intentional indifference. Later that night, I found her sitting on the bathroom floor, wrapped in a towel, phone in hand. She was staring at an old picture of us. The beach trip 5 years ago, the one she said was too expensive at the time, but later posted as hashtag best weekend ever. She looked up when she saw me. Eyes red, but dry. She asked if I hated her. I told her no. She nodded like that was a relief. Then I said, but I stopped needing you. Her expression cracked, just enough. And I knew she felt it now. Not guilt. Regret. The slow kind. The one that arrives after every option's been exhausted. After every lifeline has been burned through. When all that's left is to sit in the wreckage and realize you lit the match. The next morning, I left for work early. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't leave a note. She texted mid-afternoon asking if I wanted to talk that night. I left it on read. Because the man who once longed to be understood had finally understood himself. And silence wasn't a punishment anymore. It was home. The final conversation didn't come with shouting. No tears. No grand confrontation. Just a Tuesday. I came home. She was in the kitchen, wiping down a counter that was already clean. That nervous energy again, like she was waiting to be called into an office she no longer worked at. She said we needed to talk. I said okay. She began slowly. Said she felt like she was being punished. That I'd shut down. That she was trying, but I wasn't meeting her halfway. That she couldn't keep living in this void. I listened. Didn't interrupt. When she was done, I leaned back against the counter and told her the truth. This wasn't punishment. It was clarity. She said I was twisting her words. That she didn't mean it like that. That day, when she said she didn't need to meet my needs. But I told her she did mean it. Maybe not cruelly, but she meant it as a principle. One she had lived by. One I had ignored until it broke me. She looked down. Said she'd been protecting herself. That she didn't want to feel pressured all the time. That she didn't know how to give more without losing something. I said I understood. But when you protect yourself by shutting someone else out, eventually, they stop knocking. And I had stopped knocking a long time ago. Her voice cracked. She asked if I had given up. I said I'd given up needing her. That's not the same as giving up on everything. But it's the part she never thought could vanish. She reached for me again. This time, I stepped back. Not dramatically, just far enough for her to feel the space she had built brick by brick. She said she wanted counseling, so we could talk, unpack what went wrong, start over. I told her she didn't even know what she wanted to fix. She missed the warmth, but not the weight of responsibility that came with it. She whispered that she was trying, and I said trying looked a lot like panic when it only came after discomfort. The next morning, I packed a bag, not out of spite, out of finality. I left the key on the counter, didn't leave a note, didn't say when I'd be back. She called, texted, left a voicemail that said she'd do anything to make it right. But I didn't respond, because this wasn't about punishment. It was about consequence. The man she ignored for years wasn't coming back to explain himself. And the silence she thought made her strong was now the only thing she had left. She didn't get closure, just absence. Not a slammed door, just one that would never open again. Because when I left, I didn't take revenge. I took peace. And some endings don't need volume. Just the sound of footsteps, walking away. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.